Welcome to this first episode of the GTM podcast of Kinetyca. My name is David, I'm the co-founder here at the company, and today we have Spencer McMurtry. He is the CEO of Outreach Magic. Hi Spencer, how are you doing today?
Hey David, doing good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. We have some fascinating topics to talk about, so let's dive into it.
Looking forward to it.
We are recording this in April 2026. Gmail has now an AI gatekeeper deciding which emails people actually see. Claude Code is building entire outbound systems. Half the industry is arguing about whether the SDR role still exists. Spencer, you built a tool that sits underneath all of this and sees the actual data. What are you seeing right now, what most people are getting wrong?
Well, the one thing we're seeing is it's just getting more and more complicated. And a lot of people seem to think the answer is just more volume. Oh, we should just send more, set up more accounts, send more. And Google, they're getting so smart. They can tell what you're doing, and if they think that we can try to trick them by just adding more accounts, it doesn't work that way. That's one of the biggest things we're seeing. And I think a lot of it is just being really monitoring things extremely close. And if something doesn't seem right, optimizing it from the beginning, really monitoring it very closely. Once things work, then you scale it. But being really careful that you don't scale too quickly has been, I'd say, one of the biggest maybe challenges that we're seeing.
Yeah, deliverability has become really, really tricky. And I think actually you can see a little bit like a history, how it evolved. There was a time, I remember, it was just 5-6 years ago, I could send hundreds of emails from one email address on a daily basis, and most of them I got delivered. I could track everything, open rates, the whole thing, basically.
I always think the most simple way to explain deliverability is the analogy of SEO. So in SEO, you have what's called backlinks. And so if there is a high authority website, like say a big news site, puts a link to your website, that tells Google that your website is important. The same thing happens when you get replies. So if you send an email to a CEO, a very high level CEO, Google knows it's an important inbox. And if they reply, then that automatically increases the authority of your account. And so really, the goal is to be able to get those replies, because the more replies you get, the more authority you get, and that's going to help with deliverability. The warm-up pool, all of these things really help, of course, but if you're sending a bunch of emails and they're not getting replies, your authority is dropping, essentially.
I love this analogy. Actually, the first time I'm hearing this kind of analogy, from SEO, right? How it connects here. That's a very cool way to put it, actually. And this is the way how Google is looking at this, right? And at the same time, you still see many people tracking their open rates.
I don't quite understand it. We typically what we focus on is the reply rates. The open rates I think can really hurt deliverability. One, because it's got a tracking pixel, and that can, depending on the direct ISP, or if they have a firewall or spam filter in front of it, that will actually that can actually hurt that as well. And then the fact is that Google, Apple, and all these different inboxes actually open the emails for you, so it's not really an accurate metric. So we focus heavily on reply rates on our side and what we recommend, and that's what Outreach Magic is built around. So we focus on the reply rates and the bounce rates.
I see this every day when I'm in a sales call with a potential client, right? They come to the call and say, "Hey, our open rates are at 70%. So, and we expect from you to get open rates 80% or higher." And I just tell them, well, if you're tracking open rates, then you're doing everything wrong right away from the beginning. You're basically hurting your deliverability by a ton. But
yeah, I've heard the conversation as well that you mentioned. It's in HubSpot, it shows we're getting 90% reply rate, but for some reason we're not getting any replies. And it's because that number, what does that even mean? What is it? Who's opening that? Robots? Because it's probably not actual humans that are tracking that.
I find it actually really fascinating what you're doing with your product, because it solves a problem that that I have seen over and over, right? And because the thing is that when you think about all these different tools, right, where like the different sequences for email, for LinkedIn, what you do, I mean, every one of them, they have their own dashboards. But you don't really see much. You see, okay, how much am I sending out right now? Yes, you see the reply rates. You can see which campaigns worked well, which ones don't. But you don't see why did this campaign work well, right? Why is the group that I'm reaching out maybe better or worse in this? What is maybe better or worse when it comes to the messaging? What is like we have all these different things. So we started with deliverability. But there are many more parts to it, actually, right? That you're doing there. Can you tell us a little bit more about the different parts that you're tracking and why are you tracking them?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So if you're using a different sequencer for LinkedIn than you're using for email, there's like a disconnect there, and sometimes, oftentimes, a lead will have replied interested, and then they get enrolled in like a LinkedIn campaign, for example. Or another common scenario is that if you had reached out to that lead maybe like a couple weeks ago, and then you source new leads,
Yeah.
and maybe your leads got deleted from your sequencer, and you set in a new campaign, and how do you know which leads are already? How do they know which ones have already been contacted? And that's a big challenge that we see. And with Outreach Magic, it helps with that because we keep a complete history. So whether you're using any email sequencer or LinkedIn sequencer, we track everything. So anytime you get a new list, you just put it in the system and it'll say, oh, you emailed this person on XYZ date, you sent them a LinkedIn connection on XYZ date. And even if there's multiple people in your organization, you can see which ones are actually connected. You can see which people in the organization are already connected with that lead. And so when you go to use that same list or recycle it, you can just click a button and then it will exclude all those ones that have already replied. And so that's kind of a common thing to it. There's so much that we can get into about it, but that's kind of the essence of it. Really, as things have evolved, it's really turned around. As you mentioned, Claude Code, it's like, how can we utilize these AI tools? And that's really how things are evolving with the platform.
And now we are able to see actually when you look at the campaigns, I mean, not just which ones are delivering the best and where you have the best reply rates, but also what kind of copy worked the best and why did it work the best, right? Which people did I reach out to actually in the company? What kind of positions were they, and why did they respond to it in a specific way? Things that are that have been very obscure in the past, right? And like to get really into the detail of it, this changes this quite a bit.
We see it where, like, a campaign will be working. It's working great. And then all of a sudden, the client's like, awesome, I'm so happy. Oh, but I want more. The clients always want more, right? You're doing such a great job. And they're like, oh, but give me twice as many. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And then you dump in whatever and you try to get to twice as many. And then all of a sudden, boom, you get like nothing, right? It's like, at least that's what's happened. What we've seen happen is like, and it's like, oh, man, like, what do we do? Like, it was working fine a month ago, and then we did all this, and now nothing's working, and we're just like, oh my gosh, I don't remember what it changed. I don't remember, like, I don't know. And that's where it's incredibly valuable. You go into Cursor or you go into Claude Code, and you say, tell me the difference between 2 weeks ago and this and the most recent 2 weeks. And it will literally analyze all the different elements. So say, okay, these are the job titles that are different. These are the industries that are different. These are the headcounts that are different. And it will you can actually say, let me know with the copy as well. And it will actually download the emails, and it can actually read the actual copy and then compare and start to tell you insights what it is. And it could be a number of things. It could be that there's different email servers. It could be that there's different copy. But it really helps. Like, what I've seen is when you can like do a reset. You're like, okay, let me just go back to what was working, and then you kind of got to ramp it up again. At least that's been a trend that we've seen, where it's like, when it breaks, go back to exactly what was working. But it's hard sometimes to replicate it, like, because you don't have a good history. And now the history's there; it's permanent, and you can easily pull the exact settings that were used when it was working.
I mean, I see it so often, when we say, okay, we have to bump up the campaigns, and the problem, what happens there is that, well, you have to get the leads from somewhere, right? And normally you have to widen it up in a way. And sometimes when you look at the total addressable market, then you see, Well, this is actually total addressable market. So what do we do? Do we go now company sizes that are lower? Do we go to company sizes that are higher? Do we go to different kind of positions that we actually didn't want to target at the beginning, right? Do we go to other regions? And this is often like really like the thing with cold email that you have to figure out in a way. But on the other side, there is one thing that I think often people don't like. Let's say that they don't really see it. In the right way, in my opinion, because the thing is like, yes, you can retarget the same people after a few months, because I mean, like 99.999%, they will not remember at all that you have sent them an email, right? And like cold email is actually very similar to ads in a way, right? I mean, do you know which ads you have seen yesterday? No, I mean, because you don't even realize, you don't register them, right? And the ones where you actually where you see them, where in our case they reply, right, and something, they anyway they come to in the black box, not black box, they come on a blacklist, and then we don't target them again, right? But anyway, a lot on this topic. Let's change the topic a little bit here. So. What do you think about the Gemini thing, actually, that just happened, I mean, like very recently, basically that Gemini is now able to see what you have I mean, what kind of emails you are sending, and can even, give you like a little summary. Do you think it hurts the industry or it doesn't? Like, what's your take on this?
I think it's going to be more important than ever for the message to be relevant. In talking about signal-based tracking, and again, starting with like lower volume and seeing what's working and seeing that you are getting engagement, getting replies. Because again, Google, Gemini, they're going to be able to see that. And if it's not working at a small scale, it's not going to work at a big scale. And if you, those things, they catch that so quickly. And so it's really just making sure you get it dialed in. And I think like being hyper relevant, really intent-based, the signal-based stuff, I really think that's kind of where that's headed.
I mean, the thing is just you have to really write better emails, right? And you have to have the target right. I think that's the thing, because if people are able to see like the summary, well, then they can make the decision if this is actually an interesting email for me even faster than before, right? So I think at the end of the day, this is definitely an important part, and yeah, and. Do you think when it comes to the whole sales game in general, let's talk about how the role of the SDRs is changing these days, right? So an average SDR logs around 90 to 100 activities per day, but produces around 3 to 6 quality conversations, and it went all down by 50% basically since 2014, right? I mean, there are studies that say by 55% it went down from 2014. So this is quite a big drop, right? I mean, and what does it mean then? Actually, don't we need SDRs anymore, or do they just have to make double the work? Like, what do you think?
There's like different servers, like there's private SMTP servers, there's like Azure Microsoft servers, there's G Suite servers, there's all of these different elements. They really have to be tied into it to make it work. And it can work, and it can work great, but you really got to get those dials just right. And I think that role is just evolving to be very, very technical. It's kind of morphing into something else as I see it.
I remember like a few weeks ago, I was talking with a CEO from an event management company. And it was like a very, very traditional company, basically, with the way how they are doing this, right? They have their people that just cold call basically their potential clients on a day-to-day basis. And when I tried to explain to him like how things are changing right now in the whole B2B landscape, that yes, of course you have the cold callers and you need them as well, right? So this is like something that is very important, but the whole infrastructure that you can set up in order to make everything much more efficient, and also in the cold calling space, right? In the cold calling space, on the email, on the LinkedIn space, basically on everywhere where you want to reach out in a B2B setting. Well, I tried to explain to him what is happening, and he was like really completely confused, and he just said, well, if you want to have more leads, then just get more salespeople. That's it, right? That's the simple equation. I say, Well, yes, maybe in some industries it's still that simple, right? Just to put more SDRs. But I mean, if you look at the numbers, if you see how much the efficiency is dropping and how how much more difficult it is actually to get to the people to get them interested in what you want to tell them, right? When everybody just gets bombarded constantly, so this is something that I think many people are not well are struggling with, basically, right, to see how to fit into this modern landscape. And at the same time, I mean, there might be some situations like the guy from the event management space uh, where it's still like it was like 20, 30 years ago, no problem, business as usual, everything works, right? Like, what's your experience? Did you see people that have that are struggling to really get it, or to understand like why and how do we need this?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, things change so quickly, and the challenge
Yeah,
when you have a big team is they need direction, and you can't just say go figure it out. It,
yeah,
it just doesn't work that way. They can do what they're best, but usually as being a good manager, a good leader, like you need to give them a strong foundation, give them a framework for what's going to work. And with the kind of things that Kinetyca is doing, like really like having that framework in place is like easy to pivot and modify and adjust and test. And one company, one organization can do what 10 people could do, and they can pivot and they can adjust and they can modify things so much faster. And when you have these low level, or if they aren't experienced in this, it's very hard for them to pivot and adjust. And I think that's really the space we live in. Is this stuff is changing so quickly that we
yeah.
really have to be able to adjust and modify. And if you have a big team, that can actually be a bit of a hindrance.
Yeah, 100%. It's changing crazy fast right now. So this brings me to the next topic, Claude. So since a few months, Claude has become like really, I mean, you see it everywhere, right? And it's interesting because like basically 2 years ago, Clay was everywhere. Everyone was talking about Clay. Last year there was a period where everybody was talking about N8N, but yeah, I don't know, like, and it doesn't really got this the same of adoption, and also like with the GTM agent. I mean, of course, you use it because I mean, it's part of the tech stack, basically, right? But it doesn't have like the power to really replace it in this way. I mean, in theory, but you have to do a lot of fiddling around if you want to replace your whole stack just to N8N. But now with Claude, we really see a big change. And we really see a big change right now also with all the big GTM agencies, basically, that have been talking about Clay constantly. Now they are talking about Claude constantly. We as well, we are using Claude now everywhere. Basically, we try to integrate it in everything that we do. What's your take on this whole Claude mania right now that we see on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just it's kind of scary, to tell you the truth, right?
Yeah,
Because like nobody's role, like you're not safe. Like what's going to
yeah,
happen? What's the future? Nobody really knows. But I will say on the GTM side that Claude makes things easier from our standpoint to help combat the challenges. Like the complexity has gone up, and you need these kind of tools to be able to compete with the complexity. Because, yeah, if you just hire a bunch of people and tell them to do something, you have to have actual data backed. You actually have to have strategies, and these tools, Claude included, like can give you that actual data to help
yeah.
you know what to do, how to navigate things, and the people that aren't using it, they're just going to get left behind. That's just the reality. You really have to adapt to this stuff. It's the future. It's what's happening, and we're seeing that. That's just the way it is. It's allowing one person to do a lot more. That's what I would say it's really doing. It's allowing one person to do more, and help combat the complexity of the ever changing space.
It really gives a lot of new possibilities, and yeah, and it's scary at the same time. As you're saying yourself, right? Sometimes I look myself also, like, think about all the different skills and parts that I need in order to engineer a whole GTM system. And then I'm thinking, well, if we build all these different parts end to end, what's left? Actually, I mean, what will the human do then, right? But I mean, the thing, I mean, there's a difference between the theory and the practice, right? Because you can theoretize it, you can think about, okay, we could really like build automation around all this, but then there's always like little details that where you need like really humans like to figure them out, to change them, to adapt them, to analyze this, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, Claude is smarter definitely than what you could do, with ChatGPT or Gemini, at least in this sense. But still, it's an LLM, right? And it's still just or sometimes just. I mean, it's a little bit the funny thing with ChatGPT, right? It just repeats always back what you tell it, right? You're always right, basically. Claude is better in this. It challenges you, yes, but also not always to that extent, right? So that's the thing.
At the end of the day, if you're getting all of your direction from Claude, so is everybody else. So
Yeah,
like
exactly.
in our space, in the GTM space, like to get responses, to get engagement, you have to be different. You have to be different than everybody else because there's a lot of, depending on who you're targeting or what your markets you're in, but if it's a very competitive market, which the markets have continued to get more competitive, you kind of have to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So, it's kind of an interesting thing, like that. If you do exactly what they say, like what is everybody else doing? Maybe the same
Yeah,
thing. So, kind of something
yeah.
to think about. Anyway.
Yes, yes, yes. I've seen the other day actually like an interview for some actor. I forgot the name, but he was also in a podcast. He was saying that the problem is when you use the LLMs also like in arts, right? That it always produces like the average, right? You never get like to really extremely something innovative, something really good on the edges. You always are on the average, and it also applies actually like when it comes to sales, because I mean, like in order to be heard, to be seen, you have to stick out. You have to be able to really like be different than everyone else. So I mean, yeah, as you say, if everybody uses Claude, everybody just becomes speaking with the same voice, basically, right? So you think that GTM engineering, like when we look at this, is this basically like the new RevOps role that we see? Is it like the new RevOps with a different title, or do you think it's I mean, where do you think it's evolving actually, like the GTM engineering side?
I think it's becoming more difficult for people in the B2B space. If you need to get your message out there and you can't
Yeah.
use traditional paid channels, or traditional paid channels don't work, it is very, very hard to get your emails delivered. It's very, very hard to get your LinkedIn messages noticed. And so I think
Yeah.
it's becoming very important. I think it's more important than ever because if that's your only way to get to the market, you're really going to have someone who's very specialized in it. I think it's getting more technical. It's getting more. There's more to it. Like as we mentioned, there's all these little knobs, all these little
Yeah.
adjustments. You've got the mail servers, you've got the copy, you've got the right job titles, you've got the right industries, you've got the right headcounts, you've got all of these different variables. And I think really it's just it's becoming critically important, honestly. And there was some talk about like AI replacing it. We were mentioning it earlier, but I don't think it's going to happen because, as I mentioned earlier, if people are going to be able to tell it's AI, it keeps getting more advanced and more advanced, but still, they get numb to it. They get numb to the same thing over and over again. So I think the role
Yeah.
is just going to it's more important than ever, personally.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And the thing is, I mean, like everybody uses AI everywhere these days, right? I mean, everybody has ChatGPT on their phone, has a Gemini subscription, a Claude subscription, or I mean, at least two, three different subscriptions to LLMs, basically, and so the thing is not about to use it or not to use it, but you have to be really good at it in order to make sense out of it, right? And everybody can, like, the funny thing is that, like I remember like at the beginning actually when we just started out sending out the first emails like with ChatGPT, sentences in it, right? Like basically, and this was a time where still like nobody, or like very few, let's say, were doing it, right? Where Clay wasn't like very known yet. And so everybody was sending these templated messages out, and you could see actually that it's a templated message, right? I mean, everybody sees that easily. But then with AI at the beginning, you just change like the first line, the personalization, just something simple, and everybody was like, "Wow, how do you know this? Where did you see that? You know, I went to this school. I have done this thing, you know, in the past." And so this was this wow effect where people sometimes are wondering, okay, is this AI or not? Now these days everybody sees it very easily. Everybody recognizes M dashes. Oh, where are the M dashes right now to see like was the person smart enough to take the M dashes out at least of the emails? And yeah, I mean, people are becoming much smarter in this, like to realize this. Even like with like ChatGPT, how it responds to you, right? Just how it responds to you. It's like I was like, I just sometimes I'm getting like really frustrated actually the way because it annoys me. It annoys me the way how it responds. And so yes, you have to become smarter, right? You have to become much smarter. It's not about just using AI, but it's about knowing how to use it well.
At the end of the day, it's like, what does the data say? You can have the greatest idea, or the LLM can have the greatest idea, or you can think, but if you're not looking at the data, the campaigns aren't even going to get delivered. That's the reality. Like, that's the reality. You can have everything set up perfectly. You can have all of the right domains, all of the right servers, all of the right sequencers, and if it's not getting engagement, it just won't get delivered. It won't.
Yeah.
And that's why the GTM reel, I think, is so important, because they need to be watching those dials and watching those measurements and say, oh, this isn't working. We better try something else. This isn't working. We better try something else. And that's why the role, I think, is so critical, because to be able to do that, it's very difficult, actually, to do that kind of thing.
The funny thing is, I mean, this is not really like a science or something that you can really fully learn and fully understand, because obviously Gmail and Outlook, they don't tell you what exactly are the rules that they use behind the curtain, right? So we are all the time like playing a game, you know, where they have like their own little ways and changes and algorithms that change. We at the same time adapt, like how can we get there into the inbox, and it's like this is the fascinating thing about it, actually, that you have to constantly learn and adapt, right? So actually, I mean, Outbound isn't like just a lead machine. It is a learning system, right? It's like, I mean, in sales in general, you could say that, of course, for every kind of campaign that you do, but here it's like it's constantly, right? It's like you see the feedback constantly. And this is maybe something that you don't see sometimes when you have ads, for example. Then, yes, maybe you see it a little bit. I mean, how many calls get booked, you know, like the impressions, and all that. But people don't tell you right away, yes, I'm interested, or I'm not interested, or like this, right? So that's really something that makes it very different in the outbound world.
Campaigns perform much differently. If you're targeting event directors, they might take, sometimes they can take 3 months to reply. And if you're targeting like founders of small companies, the reply rate can be much quicker. And so being able to monitor that and see those different things, and like, it's like some campaigns work best with 3 sequences. Some campaigns work best with 1 sequence, and you recycle the list every 6 months. You just keep recycling with 1 email. You know, there's all these different kind of variables, and you know, that's why you have to constantly monitoring and adjusting, because there's not just one size fits all. You can ask the LLM, you can ask Claude, what should I do? You know, but it can't know. They can't know everything. There's so many different ins and outs that you need to really be monitoring, adjusting, and learning from it.
Yes, definitely. So when we talk about the change, about the development, about everything, how it's evolving basically in the last years, Spencer, tell us, what is your prediction for the future of GTM by the end of 2026?
So I think it's going to be more important than ever to make sure it's hyper relevant, it's at the right time, and it's to the right person. I think that's the future, and the tracking, analytics, and being able to get good signals is really going to be the future of the GTM space. Is my prediction in the future, that I don't think it's going to. I think that I think what it's going to do actually, it's going to weed out the weak. Honestly, there's going to be like the top players like Kinetyca, the top companies. They're going to continue to evolve, and then because this space is flooded, there's tons of people, and you can go and you can hire someone for a low fee or whatever. But like the reality is, it's so complicated that you really need the people that know what they're doing, and that's what I see is that the top companies are going to continue to evolve, and is going to be like a taper because it's just very hard to get results.
It has become kind of commoditized because you've seen so many different people that do this. But at the same time, there's a huge difference between just sending out emails and actually being able to get interest replies back, actually being able to get leads back, right? And it sounds easy, right? At the end of the day, when sometimes when I talk with potential clients, for them, it's like really difficult to see, right? They think, well, this company sends those emails, that company sends those emails, they do LinkedIn, they do phone calling. And they don't see really the differences. And one thing is that I think most people are not aware about is, and in my opinion, it's like the most important thing to look for when you actually evaluate which company, which agencies to go for, is like, who do you think is most probably able to find the winning strategy for you, for your company, for your industry, for your very specific use case, right? And there's a lot of business knowledge that comes into this. There's a lot of deep understanding actually of the value proposition, of the pain points, how to address to them, how to find the right signals, how to really strip down the ICP in the best way possible, basically. And this really makes the difference here. And I think intuitively, yes, people know this in the way intuitively, but I think many don't have it like as their main decision criteria, and it should be the main decision criteria, right?
Somebody who understands this and has a team that can support. It's not something you can easily do. You really need to be monitoring all these different things, making these adjustments, and have that experience. The more experience that you have with successful campaigns, the easier it's going to be to replicate, for sure.
This was it for our talk today on outbound and analytics and how the GTM landscape is evolving these days. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk with us.
Thanks, David. Nice to see you.
And thank you for the audience. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast, and see you next time.